What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz Angle. My name is Ryan Linkletter. I'm here with Brady Penn. Brady, Drake May did it. He is now the odds on favorite to win the MVP after a hot start to the game. Let's talk about it. Drake May shredded this Giants defense. What were your thoughts on tonight's game?
Yeah, well, I told you guys on the post-game show last Sunday night that Josh McDaniels does a really good job of helping his left tackles out. And aside from a couple of bad reps, it felt like he did that with Badarian Lowe tonight. And the Patriots, against a really good pass rushing unit, and the Giants were able to still get pretty much whatever they wanted in the drop back game. I want to say Drake only got sacked twice tonight, maybe. And Patriots only punted twice all night. It felt like the offense was explosive, but even before I get to the offense, the Patriots defense came out physical. They set a really big tone, and they were just hitting guys. I mean, Jackson Dart is maybe the worst quarterback I've ever seen at protecting himself, but the Patriots were drilling him. You saw Christian Ellis absolutely obliterate him on the sideline, and it was deemed a clean hit. They were just playing fast physical football. Even the DBs were out there crushing guys. And then you've got Borregales hitting his field goals. He's been a really good rookie kicker. But then you look at the offense. It feels like the run game just still hasn't gotten consistent yet, but it's gotten better over the last few weeks. The more that Travion Henderson has been involved, even though Josh McDaniel sent him to you know, sent him to the
Purgatory for
gulag
the
once
start of the
again.
game.
But for Ramondre Stevenson, who I just still don't think is good at all. But when it came to passing the ball, it kind of felt like the Patriots pretty much had no resistance from the Giants defense, and they just got up huge at the half. That was pretty much it. May was surgical, and that throw to Kyle Williams for that second touchdown pass was a beauty. And you remember when we were in Green Bay, I was really big on the Kyle Williams pick. I thought that he was going to be a factor in this offense. I know touches still haven't come in bunches for him, but he's made the touches and the targets that he's gotten very meaningful over the last few weeks of the Patriots. So that really excites me. But I think here's how I want to lay out the Drake May MVP case, because I know people are going to talk about the schedule and Stafford having the lead in touchdowns even after a rough outing yesterday. He still had two or three touchdowns. You have historical precedent over the last 10, 12 years of MVPs winning with less touchdowns. Last year, Josh Allen had 12 less, 13 less passing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson. I think five less total. The MVP voters deemed Josh Allen more valuable to his team and his success and felt he was carrying a roster to a higher degree than Lamar Jackson was. 2021, even, Brady, 43 touchdowns, 5,300 yards, and they give Rodgers the MVP with 37 touchdowns. He had a great touchdown to interception ratio. Stafford does have the edge there right now. But then you also look at a few other cases. There was one other 2023. Lamar Jackson was 12th in the NFL in touchdown passes, but the NFL deemed that Lamar Jackson was the most valuable quarterback to his team when voting came around. And I think a similar thing could be happening with Drake May. What people don't realize is the MVP is a very media driven award. It's a very narrative driven award. We all know you got to have a top two seed. It looks like May is on his way to doing that, but you got to have kind of the media hype behind you. Like last year, Allen had a lot of media noise in his corner for the MVP. Rodgers in 2021, these clips of these great throws are getting out on the internet, even though Brady has an amazing volume year. He ends up winning the award. 2023, Lamar has a great year down the stretch. The Ravens win some really big games. They've got the narrative boost. Drake May has taken this Patriots team to 10 straight victories. They have not lost since week three. The offense is putting up points every week, and every week it seems like you're seeing a new highlight throw from May. But on top of that, you've got just like the social media impact of this guy, and Drake May lover has created a lot of it. I mean, you've got Drake May on the NFL's posts, on DraftKings, on all these things, and it kind of feels like when you look at the roster, you look at that influence, and you look at the throws that are being put on tape. I think Drake May at least has put himself in a really good position to be an all pro. And I think he's right there in the conversation with Stafford. For me, he's my pick. I know that I can't be unbiased when it comes to that pick. Everybody that's been day one from Blitz knows I've never not been high on Drake May. But I truly do believe that he is a deserving MVP right now because Stafford's having a great year. I will not be upset at all if he ends up winning it. But you look at the situation, he's got the better O line. He's got probably the still better coach, even though Vrabel might win Coach of the Year. He's got two of the 10 best wide receivers in the NFL in Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams. And then he's got the elite defense. So it feels like in terms of degree of difficulty, May has the edge there, and that's a big argument that could be made. He's my pick right now for the MVP, and I want to hear your thoughts, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I think, as far as the MVP goes, before I talk more about the game in general, with Drake May, right? I think, the biggest thing I agree with you with is that he is on a significantly tougher situation than Matthew Stafford is. I mean, he doesn't have a Puka Devontae Adams to rely on in the passing game. I know that Kyron Williams is not like I don't think he's one of the best running backs in football by any means, but you pair that with Sean McVay, like it's a great situation. With Drake May, right? You have kind of a meaty, I don't want to say mediocre cast of receivers. They have a solid like depth group of
There's no
receivers.
household
There's
names, is
no
how you'd say
household.
it.
Diggs is not the household name anymore. He's a solid second guy in that system. But the thing that Drake May has going for him is I think Josh McDaniels was the perfect coordinator for him to keep his game simple,
He's
still allow
not
his
perfect for
talent.
the MVP case, though. He doesn't
No, no,
let
no,
us
no. Let me
stat
cook.
pad.
Let me cook. Let me cook.
Sorry, I'm
I'm
sorry.
saying
I,
this.
I had to get that out before I forgot. It had me so upset. I'm sorry.
I'm saying this. Josh McDaniels is like the best thing that Drake May has going for him compared to like Stafford, and Stafford still has McVay on the offensive side of the ball, right? So you can't really compare what May's had to Stafford has, and he also has the narrative part of he's taken a team that was in fourth place last year, picking at the top of the draft, to the one seed in the AFC. That type of narrative, right? That's something that a lot of media people will buy into in general, and some people will look at Stafford's raw numbers and he probably will have better raw numbers at the end of the year. They're going to have some tough games down the stretch here where Stafford is going to have to play really good football, and those games are going to be really meaningful for where they seed. And Drake May and the Patriots probably are just going to cruise down the stretch here with two games circled, one with Buffalo and one with Baltimore. Besides that, some easier games down the stretch that it's going to be a very narrative driven toward to close the season. I think looking at the stories in general, Drake May's story sounds a little bit better to me, right? A guy that took a team from fourth place to the one seed, right? He's been very impressive this year. And it seems like he's in this honeymoon stage with NFL fans where everybody loves him right now. He's
Free
in that
hate.
he's in that rookie quarterback stage where everybody loves him. He hasn't won a big meaningful game yet. He hasn't done anything bad really in his career to this point. Everybody's on Drake May's side. He's the up and coming guy. So he has everything with that working for him right now. The other thing with Stafford that I think is an underrated thing when you look at the MVP race and the narrative behind it is this could be Stafford's last season, right? This could be his last hurrah. And this is a guy that came into the year and no one really talks about it anymore. He couldn't move. His back was absolutely
He
cooked.
died months
He
ago.
literally, this is not Matthew Stafford. It's a clone of Stafford. But I mean, it genuinely could be his last season. And if Stafford, right, gets knocked out of the playoffs, let's say the divisional round or the championship round, and he hangs it up before these people vote, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, remember, voting is at the end of the regular season.
Okay, well, yeah, that is fair, but I still think that definitely is something that like a voter, right? Is it Stafford's last year? Drake May is an up and coming quarterback. While they're very comparable, maybe they give it to the guy that could boost his Hall of Fame case to a first round or first ballot lock. So I think that part's definitely to play. But as far as tonight's game go, I know like me, you, and Dan were all in agreement. Like this could be a slower game for the Patriots, right? You have the pass rushers for the Giants, right? But they set the tone right away. Like the field goal drive, right? That was fine, but the special teams, Marcus Jones, man, making a big play on special teams, and that's what New England has been really good at. Is they've been a three-phase team. They've had a solid defense this year. Their offense has been solid as well, and they've also paired that with a good special teams unit, and that's why they're winning these games. They're not finding ways to lose in these one-score games or even trap games like this against the Giants, where maybe the Giants like continue their offensive momentum and make headway with the Patriots having some injuries. So this is a complete football team. And I keep saying this, and I know not everybody agrees with it because they've had an easier schedule, is the Patriots are a complete football team, right? The biggest concern with the Patriots that I have heading into the postseason is their pass defense and their experience. That is their biggest concerns
Well,
heading
it's
into
the pass rush specifically to me.
pass rush is a big part of their pass defense struggling, for sure. So like you pair those are their biggest concerns. Besides that, they match up with everybody as a complete team. Sure, they're not like the Rams where basically they're stacked on the defensive line. They stop the run well. They're good against the pass, right? They have a great quarterback. They have all the receivers. They're not that type of a team. They're a good complete team that's well coached. They don't lose games. They don't really turn the ball over much, and that's winning football. That's going to win them a lot of games, especially when they're at home in the postseason going forward. I don't know what your thoughts are with them in terms of a complete team standpoint, but where do you feel like New England, in terms of the postseason, matching up with some of these teams where they have a clear advantage?
I mean, I said it last night. I feel confident that they will win the AFC as long as they don't run into Kansas City. I feel like Kansas City from a schematical standpoint and from an experience standpoint, is the one team that they do not match up well with. And I still think the Patriots could win that game 100%, but that's the one team I would not feel good about. You're if you're honest with yourself, Denver, they have an amazing defense. But I think when you look at especially these games with the national audience that these two teams have had, I think that if you have no clue, the schedule or any of this other outside noise, when you just watch these two teams play, I think it's hard to come away with the takeaway that Denver is the more complete team in every phase of the game because the defense is elite, but we see the offense go through these spurts of struggling. We see Bo
Anybody
Nix
that
go through
tells you
these.
Denver is a complete team on both sides of the ball is just lying to you because it's not true. They're so
Their
inconsistent on
bottom half, they're 17th in pretty much everything. They're 17th in points per game. They're 17th in EPA. They're 17th in DVOA offensively. They are, by definition, a below average offense. Patriots are not a good DVOA defense. I think a lot of it is attributed to the fact that DVOA does account for strength of schedule and opponent, the opponent factor of it. But EPA has them as a top 10 defense. EPA has them as a top 10 offense. They have them as the number two drop back offense in the NFL. They're great on special teams, like you said. They make their kicks. They've got a great punt coverage team. They cover well on the kickoffs and they do get taken out. And Marcus Jones might be the most underrated player in the AFC right now, considering what he does in the slot at cornerback for them and then returning the ball on these punts. He's been great. Just to put a bow on the May MVP thing, not only has he won 10 games in a row, this is the Patriots' first 11-2 start since 2016. For those of you that don't remember, that was the year of 28-3. That was the year of the Tom Brady suspension the first four games. Patriots ended up going 14-2 in the regular season and obviously winning the Super Bowl. Almost a decade since they've been at this point in December. He's leading the league in passing yards. I just feel like he's a very, very deserving candidate, like we said, with the things that are on his plate. But it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up. You talked about these other opponents, though, besides Denver, Indianapolis. I take the Patriots in that game. Patriots' strength defensively is the run stopping. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, that's what the Colts offense runs through. That would be a challenge that they haven't seen yet. But again, Drake May, Daniel Jones, who are you taking? I'm taking Drake May. You look at Baltimore, they're just a complete mess. It doesn't feel like they figured things out on either side of the ball, defensively or offensively. I would take the Patriots there. The Bills, tough matchup. Depends on what we see in a couple of weeks. I mean, if we see the Patriots come out at home and blast Buffalo, of course. I will say also,
They're going to beat
if
them 3 times.
if May and the Patriots come off of the bye week in a game that's likely, I think, going to be a national audience at 1 o'clock against the Buffalo Bills at home to move to 12-2 and pretty much lock up the East, I think you could start writing May's name on the award. Just the way out the narratives work, the way that these games are nationally televised, because he'll get another national game the next week at Baltimore. And if they beat Buffalo, you can probably assume they're beating this Baltimore team. I tweeted the other day, I think the Patriots on paper should beat the brakes off this Baltimore team right now. The way that both these teams are playing, Patriots should be able to go win that game. I know it's a young and experienced team, so we'll see what happens. But it's as a Patriots guy, it's very, very encouraging. And even if they don't end up winning the Super Bowl this year, I mean, expectations have changed. I was saying it to someone earlier. Expectations have changed. Beginning of the year, I thought 9 or 10 wins and like making it to the wild card and falling out there would be fine. At this point, it's AFC Championship, Super Bowl, or bust for this team. But even with that being said, it feels like they're ahead of the curve, and it's really exciting that this is year one of the Mike Vrabel, Drake May era, and that it kind of feels like they're just getting started. And if they were to make a Super Bowl this year, like watch out. I know windows are a very weird thing in the NFL. I know windows can close quickly, things can happen. Look at the Bengals. But I feel like this team is going to be around for the next 10 years, the way that they look right now with May and Brable.
Yeah, and it'll be an interesting conversation because you have the top 4 dogs in the AFC that
Oh, and by
are
the way,
playing.
not before, just to wrap that up, they're also number one in cap space in the NFL.
They got money. They got to. Well, that's the thing though. Is like kind of leads me into what I'm saying. Anyways, is like you have the top 4 dogs in the AFC. They're all under. They're all out of their rookie contracts, right? Justin Herbert also is outside of his rookie contract, right? May is basically the only guy in the AFC that's up and coming on a rookie contract, and the Patriots can exploit that and sign a bunch of players and get a really talented roster around him while he's still on this rookie contract. And honestly, like the Patriots' success sustained after this year, right? it's going to come down to the general manager putting the right pieces around Drake May and this team continuing to take the steps in the right direction because this is the honeymoon year for the Patriots, right? This is the year that nobody expected. Drake May's playing at an MVP level. Everything is going perfect for the Patriots. Next year, it's not going to be the exact same thing, right? There are going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be different guys coming into New England.
Tougher
There's change.
schedule.
There's, well, that too. And they're going to, obviously, teams are going to make adjustments to what New England is doing offensively. I think they're going to start seeing a lot more two high looks, right, than they're getting right now, which has been a massive boost for them as they're getting a lot of one high looks, one on one coverages. And Drake May's deep ball is probably the best deep ball I've seen since prime Russell Wilson right now. So, like, you look at that, and I think defenses will probably at some point say, we're not letting Drake May beat us deep anymore. And you've seen it with Josh Allen specifically. We saw it with Mahomes as well as you took two guys who threw the ball deep their first 4 years of their career, and then they got negated to basically check down merchants because defenses said, we're not going to get beat over the top. You have to go 12 plays and beat us. And I think having a veteran coach like Josh McDaniels, who has had Tom Brady, right? A guy that they relied on the run game and what Tom Brady could do with his cerebral play and like adjusting to the defense and making plays and playing within schedule and not always relying on that. I think that McDaniels will be a good help for me. But I think that is the thing that after this season, whatever happens, right? This is already a great start for New England. There are going to have to be adjustments made. And if they can capitalize on that cap space, the sky is the limit for New England while Drake May's on that rookie contract.
You know, you mentioned Tom, and I think that, and I'm not calling Drake May Tom Brady, but it felt like once Tom, like, especially when the personnel didn't really lend itself to downfield passing, what Tom really thrived in was that short, that intermediate game, essentially over the middle, incorporating the tight ends. And that's one thing I think you already see with Drake May, even with the deep ball prowess. You see the connection that he has with Hunter Henry. Maybe down the line, they make an upgrade at tight end over Hunter Henry, and it gets more dangerous. It feels like May has a lot of command of what's going on and a lot of poise. I mean, I can't tell you how many times tonight I found myself just impressed with Patriots would line up. You'd see a look from the Giants, and you'd see May start moving guys around, start making a check at the line, like switching to a play that felt worked better against that coverage. And I know that that seems like something very basic, but there are a lot of quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, I feel like the way that they're developed today in the NFL, that do not do that and aren't able to control an offense. It feels like a lot of these offenses kind of get like a child lock on them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of quarterbacks kind of have pre-set up things for them. And it feels like May is at this point like commanding a rocket ship at this point. It feels like he's very advanced mentally for a guy that's only 23 years old. I think I can't say enough good things. I mean, I think you're pretty much in agreement here. Like the sky's the limit for this guy, and it's really, really exciting for New England.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see how the playoff picture looks this year and then go from there and see if New England can run the table. But we have to talk about the Giants too because they did play in this game even if we have barely talked about them. Here's the thing with New York is they have talent, Brady. Like Jackson Dart has shown that he can win some games. He's flashed at times and I think his biggest concern is staying available on the field and not taking some of these hits, right? Cam Scatterbo looked really good prior to the injury. Obviously, they're missing Malik Neighbors, who broke out last year. Wando Robinson's looked pretty good as well. Theo Johnson showed some signs. Obviously, of Thomas at left tackle as well. Defensively, you got a plethora of edge rushers. Besides that, not much, but there's a ton of talent on this Giants team. They just the coaching from Brian Dable and kind of the situation they have been dealt this year, it's just not been good. So my question for you is New York has talent. What are the next steps for this team and how can they improve heading into next year?
I think that even though Robinson has been good, I think that they need another wide receiver. I feel like the offensive line has actually not been terrible for them. I feel like they've started to build that up. They've obviously invested picks into that, even if, you know, guys like Evan Neal haven't quite panned out. I don't think that unit has been terrible. I think that they need to get better in the secondary. That's one of the biggest things for this team is they don't have anybody in the secondary. They signed Javon
Well, they whiffed.
Holland.
Yeah, Javon Holland was a whiff.
Yeah, he hasn't been great, and even then, the corners are not good on the outside. Feels like the D line's obviously set, and then you've got Neighbors as your wide receiver one, but shore up the O line a little bit, get a pass catching threat, whether that's another slot, another tight end, or even a Z receiver, and I feel like you're looking pretty good if Dart can keep himself healthy, which is the big question. I wish that we could have seen Christian Gonzalez against Malik Neighbors tonight. Would have been a fun matchup. But I mean, the Giants, they don't have a horrible outlook. I'm not ready to say that they're one of these young up and coming teams and they're going to be great in 2 or 3 years. but there are some interesting pieces, and I think that that's the sole reason that Joe Schoen was kept around, is he brought in some of these guys through the draft in Dart, in Neighbors, in Abdul Carter. He brought in Brian Burns via trade, so I think that that's why he didn't get sent out with Dable. I think that they've got a decent system going in terms of their talent evaluation, but they need to get a more cohesive and complete roster.
Yeah, it's gonna kind of come down. I'm interested to see what type of coach they're gonna try to pair with Jackson Dart. Obviously, I think the hottest name will be Clint Kubiak this
Dude,
offseason.
I'm going against the grain here. I like Shula from the Rams.
Mm. Yeah, I mean the McVay tree has looked pretty good, right?
Even though it's a
I
defensive guy, like I like him.
I think well, I don't know. Like the thing with me is like you have all these guys. You know what I wouldn't be surprised with? I wouldn't be surprised if they give Cliff Kingsbury a look. Potentially.
It- Listen,
I
who I paired with Shula was Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien coaches for a terrible Boston College team. We've seen him bring up some young quarterbacks before. I mean, he had Deshaun Watson to help bring him up before all the touchy feely weird stuff, and then he had Mac Jones, who looked good before he got paired with Matt Patricia. And then like Bill O'Brien has been around. He's been a really good quarterback guy, and his college team that he's coaching sucks. College is a crappy game to coach in right now with the state of the NIL and everything. I like that pairing. I like Shula. I like the Patriots route. Maybe it's recency bias, but bringing in the defensive head coach that's a good leader, and then bringing in the experienced play caller that maybe can't quite cut it as a head coach has been a really good combination for the Patriots. I would be interested to see if the Giants would go after it with Shula and Bill O'Brien.
The Patriots are in a fortunate spot though that Josh McDaniels has failed as a head coach that he's not going to go anywhere. So they that's such a hard part though of hiring a defensive guy is you have to bank on the offensive guy being
You
good
need
and
good
being able to replace
coordinators.
right? And that's kind of what's happening in Philly right now is they rotate coordinators so much because they're so good that you get a guy like Kevin Patullo that's not very good at what he does, and Nick Sirianni's not an X's and O's guy, and you get the offensive performance we've had this year. So if you go defensive head coach, you run that risk of the offensive coordinator changing so much that it's just not going to be as consistent of a position. So I think you run that risk. But one of the things that you mentioned with New York is that secondary. And while you were mentioning it, I couldn't help but think that the Giants could potentially be in on Trent McDuffie this offseason. I know
I could
I
see that, man. I could
I
see it.
don't I don't think the Chiefs are going to bring back McDuffie or Jalen Watson next year with how this team has looked and where they've done. One of the things the Chiefs do well is they evaluate their weaknesses every offseason, right? You look at last year, right? Brett Veach said left tackle is our biggest weakness over the last two seasons. They went out and drafted Josh Simmons, right? Before, right? You had a draft class that of George Karloftis and Trent McDuffie, right? You brought in Nick Bolton the year before. They went all defense for about 2 to 3 years there because their defense was pretty mediocre. And now you kind of look at this year, they can't get any pass rush with four. There is a strong chance that the Chiefs are going to go heavy edge rushers in the draft and find ways to get guys that are going to win in pass rush, right? And it has to be at the expense of the cornerback room, a position that they've never signed. You clearly saw that despite having Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson last week against Dallas, that they couldn't stop him in general. So why would you give Trent McDuffie a $20+ million extension when you already have a ton of money given to the quarterback, the offensive line, Chris Jones? Why would you not send that guy off, accumulate draft picks? You saw what Sauce Gardner went. I'm not saying McDuffie goes for 2 firsts and a wide receiver, but he probably goes for like a first and a 6th round pick or a second and a
I'm thinking he goes second and third.
yeah, like you can get value in those 2 picks and reload at that position or add other positions because the one thing the Chiefs do consistently well is they draft cornerback talent pretty well late in drafts. So it'll be interesting to see.
Listen,
I don't know what your thoughts are.
if you're the Giants, here's what you do. I like that move. Let's assume that they make that move. Trade a second and a third for Trent McDuffie. Take your first round pick, which is going to be inside the top five. Trade back to 7 or 8. Take Caleb Downs at safety
Well,
out
do
of
they have?
Ohio
I don't know if
State.
they have their 1st round pick this year.
Do they not? I want to say they do.
I gotta look real quick. You can keep.
No, no, no. I don't think they pulled a Falcons and gave up their 2026 first for Dart.
I'll look. You cook. You cook.
Okay, I was gonna say if they have their first rounder, Then you trade back to 7 or 8. You take Caleb Downs. You've got Trent McDuffie and Caleb Downs, and then you sign another pass catcher, not a world beater, but sign another pass catcher to be a number two, number three guy, whether it's a tight end or a slot or whatever it may be. Those are the moves that I would make if we make that Trent McDuffie trade. And I think what stinks for the Chiefs, just to touch on that really, really quickly before we wrap up here, is McDuffie could have been signed. I think the Chiefs front office screwed it up by signing Nick Bolton and George Karlaftis and even trading away Joe Tooney. I would have tagged and traded Trey Smith. I would have slotted Kingsley in at right guard, and I would have kept Joe Tooney around. And even if you want to sign Karlaftis, don't sign Nick Bolton to the money that you did, and you can afford Trent McDuffie. And now it feels like whether it's the Giants or not, that McDuffie trade is inevitable.
Yeah, Brett Veach did not have a great off season. Let's just say that. And the one I still agree with is trading Tooney and re-signing Smith, and that's in a large part due like similar type of production from those two guys. I know Trey Smith has struggled with injuries this year. His pass blocking hasn't been as good, but he's a much younger version of Joe Tooney. And obviously, they clearly felt that Kingsley Sumiata was right there and ready to replace him. He's been pretty good
Yeah,
for that.
he's found his niche at guard
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah. So like
tackle.
they did a good job like knowing where they could, trade a guy, but obviously Trey Smith could have netted them a little bit more value, but then you're looking at getting another guard in the draft. And I think with the amount of money Kansas City has invested in Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, and obviously Jawan Taylor on the right side, like there's a ton of money on that offensive line. Like they built that thing up and they've just had injuries for that group. And Jawan Taylor continues to have penalties. So like I think it's interesting, and the defensive side of the ball with Karloftis and Bolton contracts, right? The Bolton one, I thought he was going to be gone, but the coaching staff loves him and has an affinity for him.
I don't know why.
Karloftis, I think it's a similar like the Karloftis deal looks crazy right now. Like PFF
Was
got
it
that guy
five
so much
sacks?
money.
Like,
They got that guy so much money. They give him a pressure every time he gets to the quarterback in 5 seconds after he holds the ball. And it doesn't make any sense how he's making like top 20 edge rusher money. So like when you're paying these guys, and they brought back Charles Omenihu, they brought back Mike Dana, right? They brought back these edge rushers that just haven't been good. You're asking Chris Jones to do so much, and they only have so much money, and then now you're stuck in this situation where McDuffie's probably the odd man out just based on a money situation. And it kind of comes down to if Travis Kelsey comes back next year, how much do you have to pay him? Right? What type of contract does he have? So I'm not sure what's going to go on with the offseason with Kansas City, but it almost feels like they're in for a reset, kind of similar to what they did a few years ago with that Tyreek Hill trade and the way this roster's trending for sure. So, hey, really appreciate you guys tuning into this episode of the Blitz Angle. Drop a comment down below if Drake Maye is the MVP or if you're riding with Matthew Stafford. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz Angle content, and me and Brady will catch you guys next time.